Hello my friends and welcome once again to this Red Gaming Tech video with myself, Amata. Hope you guys are keeping well. Today is of course the release date for the Xbox Series X, so for those of you who have received their consoles today, hope you are enjoying. But I'm here as always with the latest news from the tech and gaming world as of the last 24 or so hours, and today is of course the 10th of November. We've got quite a bit to get into today, so I'm just going to get stuck right in with a little something from AMD. So, no salt is required for this one. This is an official press release from the company, and they have unveiled the Ryzen Embedded V2000 processors, which have enhanced performance and power efficiency. They deliver double the cores, up to 2 times performance per watt, and an estimated 15% IPC uplift over the previous generation. Now, in terms of the specifications, again, this is an embedded. It's designed for applications such as thin client, mini PC, and edge systems, and has up to 8 cores and 7 GPU compute units, and a single Ryzen Embedded V2000 series processor provides up to 30% better single-thread CPU performance and up to 40% better graphics performance over the previous generation. And you can actually power up to 4 displays independently in 4K resolution. Now, AMD have thankfully provided some performance charts to get a little look at how it does versus some Intel parts. We see a Ryzen Embedded V2718 uplift versus the i7 10710U and the 10510U, as well as the V2748 versus the Intel Core i7-9750H. And as you can see, in a couple of cases, the Ryzen and Intel parts are either pretty much tied, or the difference in the lead for AMD is pretty small, but in other cases you can see the lead for AMD is significant. For example, the left-hand result, you can see in Cinebench R20 there is a significant lead for the V2718, and the same again in 3D Mark TimeSpy. And for the other parts, while they're fairly closely matched in Cinebench R20 1T, in NT, obviously we see the Ryzen part pull ahead, and once again we see the same story for 3D Mark Firestrike Physics Test. And to finish up this particular segment, we have a bit of a statement from Ryzen Guar, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, or even close to correctly, that would be good. Corporate Vice President and General Manager over at Embedded Business for AMD, of course. And he said, quote, "AMD is continuing to deliver high-performance embedded processors for our customers with the new Ryzen Embedded V2000 series. Pairing the Zen 2 CPU cores with Radeon graphics, we're now providing our customers with a new class of performance and power efficiency with 7nm technology that enables them to implement unique designs that target their applications. We continue the 10-year planned availability as with our other Ryzen embedded processors, and look forward to seeing partners and customers utilizing fast processing speeds, integrated graphics, and outstanding power efficiency of the Ryzen Embedded V2000 processor for years to come." So, let's move swiftly on, shall we, to something from Nvidia. Now, this fresh set of rumours is brought to us by Kapiti7Kimi over on Twitter. And this time around, because they have been flush with Nvidia rumours as of late, they have some information on the RTX 3050, the non-tie variants, which is likely to be the sort of the babby of the RTX 30 series, the slowest if you prefer. But we do have some interesting information, as you can see. Supposed to be seeing the GA107-300 GPU with 2304 CUDA cores and a 90-watt TGP. Now, sadly, we do not know what we're going to be seeing in terms of memory configuration, but we can reasonably expect to see 4GB of GDDR6 memory, but that is just an educated guesstimate based on what we already know. So do not take that as anything more than what I believe is going to happen, but of course we haven't had any official word from Nvidia about this. Now, as I've said before, as much as we love to talk about the very high-end, the bleeding edge of technology, where a lot of the interesting, really groundbreaking stuff is happening, and I love that stuff, I genuinely do. When it comes to consumers, the mid-range cards are where it's going to be at, because they're more affordable, you can still get reasonable performance for your money, and most people don't have £800,000, whatever, your regional currency here to spend on just the graphics card. So mid-range is such an important battleground for both Nvidia and AMD. So as crucial as the top end is, the mid-range arguably even more so, but regardless of that, mid-range is very, very important, and we're expected to see the 3050 and the 3050 Ti, as well as, of course, the 3060 and 3060 Ti face off against various RX 6000 GPUs, which we are expected to see debut early next year. According to the sources of videocards.com, we're going to be seeing the first Navi 22 products released under the RX 6700 series. And that is, of course, what Nvidia are going to be facing off against with their 3050, 3060, and so on. So again, while it's excellent to see AMD finally being competitive in the top end, the mid-range is also going to be critical. But we're going to move on now to a few PlayStation 5 items, the first of which is an update regarding the 1440p situation. Now, in case you missed my video the other day where I discussed this, essentially, at the moment, the PS5 does not support native 1440p resolution, where it is supported by the Xbox Series X and S. Now, obviously, 1440p TVs don't really exist, but plenty of people are going to be plugging their PS5s into monitors for a variety of reasons, and it seems that 1440p may be added in the future. So, essentially, these comments came from the Sony Interactive Senior Vice President Hideaki Nishino, and he spoke in an interview with AV Watch, and it was helpfully tweeted and translated by Nibel over on Twitter, because of course the interview was in Japanese. But apparently, according to what Nibel has said here, that there's no PS5 1440p res support due to TVs being the highest priority, which is pretty much what I said in my video, but he does say that if it's requested enough, they might add it in the future. So this is not a promise that we are going to be seeing it 100%, but if enough people want it, they will add it in to the PS5. Now, again, I did speculate that that was the reason, that there just wasn't enough, in their eyes, demand to put in the effort and etc, etc. But obviously, it's always nice to have it, especially when your competition does. So we'll have to see. There was quite a few of you in the comments of my last video when I discussed it that said that this is your preferred resolution to game at, and obviously you were quite disappointed by the lack of support from Sony here. So make your voice heard, guys. Go tweet at Sony, email them, whatever. Send them a carrier pigeon to let them know you want a game at 1440p. And we may see this change in the future. So next up is something small but definitely cool, especially for those of you that enjoy this feature, which is the preferred install. Now, this isn't a new feature, it was on the PS4, just to be clear, but this was detailed on an FAQ that Sony had published regarding the PS5. Of course, it's only a few days now until it comes out in the US. Obviously, an extra week until it comes out for us here in the UK and the rest of the EU. Which is a shame, but I didn't get in fast enough to get in on launch day anyway, so it's kind of potato for me. Anyway, regardless. So, the PS5 is going to have the preferred install feature that we saw on the PS4, which basically allows you to download and install the first portion of the game while the rest downloads in the background. And it is kind of nice because it gets you going faster, especially if that game is very hefty in size, like say for example a Final Fantasy 7 or something like that. You can have this so you can at least start playing while it downloads the rest. It does kind of sometimes result in a situation like what happened to me with Final Fantasy 7, where I got to the end of the preferred installed section and then I had to wait until basically the next day to play the rest because the rest was so huge. But obviously that's me and my internet. Obviously, it's going to apply to everyone. So it's cool that they brought this feature back, and I think it's definitely going to be something that's needed with the limitations that we have for the space on the system. But something interesting has popped up with a remote play app. Now, I'm not sure how much usage this particular app is going to see, so let me know if you guys would consider using it after I've explained what it actually is. Basically, the PS4 has got an automatic update with something called PS5 Remote Play, which essentially would theoretically let you play PS5 titles by streaming them to your PS4. So, you can go through menus, play next-gen games. There's only 4 quality options, however, for 540p, 720 and 1080. 4K is not available, at least as far as we're aware. And according to a report from Eurogamer, they do state that you first need to turn on the remote play setting on the PS5 to allow the PS4 to connect. And obviously there will be various limitations. For example, there's going to be various features that are undoubtedly tied to the brand new controller for the PS5 and such. But it is a feature that does exist. But I do wonder how much usage this is going to see. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this particular app. It's a cool feature from Sony. Interesting that they've added it nonetheless. But speaking of the controller, we have an interesting subject up next. Now, as I just said in the previous segments, the DualSense controller has obviously been the topic of much discussion, as we all wonder how it's actually going to play into gameplay. Is it going to be just more than a gimmick? Because obviously we saw something not really similar in terms of features, but the 6-axis thing for the PS3 just didn't really see any use, and the same for the touchpad on the DualShock 4. But the DualSense, from what developers have been saying, it sounds genuinely very, very exciting, and I'm curious to get my hands on it to see how it actually feels and handles in real-life gaming. And on that topic, we actually have some comments from the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War lead game designer Tony Flame, amazing surname, and they were speaking to GameSpot, and they discussed how they have tuned the haptics individually for every weapon that's in the game. He said, quote, "The DualSense controller is pretty awesome. It's got new haptic feedback, so when you're pulling the trigger, it's shaking. Every time a gun fires, there's a little motor in there that's firing every time. There's sensitivity on the trigger that represents the trigger pressure on a real weapon. All of that has been tuned in the game for each individual weapon. So it's quite a lot to take in, but it's pretty awesome, and it gives the guns a feeling like they've never had before." Now, I have to say that really does sound interesting. Call of Duty is not really a franchise that has interested me all that much. The one game that I actually enjoyed, most CoD fans seem to hate, and that's Advanced Warfare. So it's not really a series for me. You do you, hun, enjoy. But I am curious to see how this would actually work. Would it actually add something? Would it really fully increase immersion? How would it actually feel? Would it take that much getting used to? That sort of thing. So I'm genuinely really looking forward to seeing how the DualSense is actually used, the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers and all this. And I want to see if we're actually going to see it used past the launch titles. Because that's kind of what's happened with the previous gimmicks we've seen in controllers, where they used it first, and then after that it just kind of dies out as developers are more focused on making their game or whatever. So I'm curious, what do you think of the DualSense based on what you've seen? Perhaps you've somehow managed to get a PS5 early or whatever. Let me know your thoughts. Personally, I'm really interested and intrigued, but I know everyone doesn't hold that opinion. And we're going to finish up today's video with some good news, as we have some release windows for various titles, including Gran Turismo 7, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Returnal, as well as Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West. And in terms of the windows, we are going to be seeing Gran Turismo, Ratchet & Clank and Returnal launch in the first half of 2021, whereas we're not going to be seeing Horizon Forbidden West until the second half of next year. Now, we obviously need to keep in mind that current world events may still be going on at that time, so they do say anticipated, because they don't want to promise and it has to be pushed back because of what's going on in the world or whatever. But if all goes to plan, sorry, I just hit my desk, that is roughly the release window we're going to be seeing for those titles. A bit of a feels bad, man, that we're not going to see Horizon until the end of next year, but with the amount of games coming out that I'm interested in, it's not like we're going to be short of things to play. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you for bearing with me for this slightly longer one. I do appreciate all your guys' support. Really, you have blown me away the last few months with the amount of support, so thank you so much. I really do mean that from the bottom of my heart. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.